I'm Kathryn Rose, founder and CEO of channelWise. channelWise is a platform that provides channel partners access to vetted, been there, done that experts for one-on-one video consultations to help them go farther, faster in their business. Today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming a channelWise expert, Samantha Feder, who is the U.S. Commercial Service representative from Boston, here to give us some of the inside scoop on some of the programs that the U.S. government has for companies looking to expand overseas. I actually was recently part of a trade mission, the first Women in Tech trade mission, as a matter of fact. And we went to Amsterdam, we went to Portugal, we went to Lisbon, and we went to Paris. So it was really interesting. And it was the first time I personally had ever heard of the U.S. Commercial Service, to be honest. So I invited Sam here because I wanted her to give us a good overview and how some of you can take advantage of some of these programs. As I mentioned earlier, Sam is in the Boston area, and is it every city, Sam, or is it every state?
There's 106 offices, so we cover every state, but some states have a few more offices than others.
Right, because they're a bit bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but she's in the Boston area, so we're going to put the link to all of the area representatives in the chat. So, but if you are obviously in the Boston area, Massachusetts, are there two here in Mass?
Just us, yeah, just Boston.
Okay, so if you're in the Massachusetts area, then Sam would be your contact. Otherwise, we'll put that link in there. But I wanted Sam to be here and just give a really good overview of some of the benefits of how you can get involved with the commercial service and some of the programs. So, Sam, let's start off with what exactly is the U.S. Commercial Service and what does it do?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Kathryn. I'm really excited to talk to everyone about this. So the Commercial Service is actually an agency within the Department of Commerce, and we're the trade promotion branch. So we work directly with U.S. companies who are looking to sell their products abroad. So these can be goods or services, softwares, anything like that. So we have, as I mentioned, we have about 106 offices domestically. So we'll work with you. You'll find your local contact. We can drop that link in the chat. And then we also have about 120 offices overseas. So these are located in 80 countries, and they're located in our embassies and consulates. So for example, I cover the tech sector out of the Boston office for the state of Massachusetts. We would have a colleague overseas who covers the tech sector for, let's say, for Paris. So they know the market super well. They're locally employed. They know the language. They know the business practices. They know everything. And so they're going to be your experts on the ground. So we're just here to be a resource for you, for U.S. companies, so that you have kind of feet on the ground and you can get kind of an inside scoop on what's happening in that market, any market updates, and you already have a contact there if you were to go abroad.
So do you have to be looking to establish an office presence in that country in order to take advantage of some of these programs? Or is it just to be like exporting your goods and services overseas?
Sure. So yeah, so we primarily just work with companies that want to sell their products abroad. So they want to gain a bigger client base. We primarily help connect you to partners, distributors, if you want to connect with the local governments there. And sell to foreign governments. That's usually what we do. If you do want to open an office there, we're happy to connect you with the other government, so whatever the local government is, because they'd be happy to have you invest in their country as well.
Because I think that was one of my misunderstandings. I thought the only time we would, I would work with you guys is if I wanted to actually like establish a presence in a different country. But that was one of the things that I found super interesting about this was the fact that, the whole idea is to, be able to export your goods and services, and not have to necessarily hire local folks or actually set up an entity there, because that can be obviously time consuming and expensive, for a lot of smaller businesses. What kinds of services do you offer? I mean, I went on a trade mission, so let's talk about the trade mission first, but I know that that's only like a fraction of what you guys do.
Sure. So we do offer a few trade missions throughout the year for different sectors. So again, I cover tech. So you went on the Women in Tech trade mission, which is amazing. We also do trade missions for like the healthcare sector, for travel and tourism to highlight different U.S. destinations. We do, environmental, offshore wind, all of that. So we really try to make it, we try to hit each industry. So that's kind of I can walk you through a bit about the trade mission. So
yeah, let's talk about the trade missions, because I know there are some coming up. This interview will specifically be run toward the IT tech channel. So a lot of cybersecurity, data centers, like, those kinds of things. And obviously that's your purview is tech. So talk about what a trade mission is and how does it work?
Sure. So the U.S. Commercial Service, we basically get together a bunch of companies who have like interests, so they maybe are all in the same sector, and they're all interested in a specific market. So for example, you went to 3 different countries. We also have ones that are specific for one country, and you would just hit a couple different cities in that one country. So what you do there is it's just a really great place to network. So we'd invite all of the big local names. So whatever, if it's cybersecurity, we invite local cybersecurity companies, local CISOs. We'd invite different government entities that are looking for or maybe have tenders out for cybersecurity. And so then that would just be some networking receptions. We do some briefings. So we would have our local staff there brief you on different opportunities in the market, maybe steps on how to get into the market if you're not currently there. And so just kind of, do you need a partner? Is it okay to just sell directly to the end user? Is it easier to get a distributor? So just kind of making it a little bit more easy for you to understand how to do business there. And then another component is we do B2B matchmaking. Some cases we also do B2G. And so you would meet with us in advance. Everything would be in advance. So we would connect you to our local specialists in that city. You would say, hey, I've been really interested in meeting with company X. I've been calling them a bunch of times. I can't connect with them. Do you know them? Chances are we probably do, just because we're already in that market and we've been there for 10, 15, 20 plus years. So we would try to set up B2B meetings for you with that company maybe, and then also other companies like it. And so that's kind of where the big value is those B2B meetings. We usually do up to 5 or 6 maybe per trade mission. But of course, it depends on the trade mission, depends on where you're going.
So I can attest to the fact that the folks in country, well, folks local, but for sure the ones in the embassies in the countries work extremely hard to and any of these trade missions. So you don't just show up, right? They put together every night. We got a briefing binder. Well, prior to going, we got a briefing document that talked about each country and the agenda of who we were going to go to, what we were going to be doing. And then, we would tell them, like you said, I would tell them, like, these are the kinds of companies. But other folks, because they're much more experienced at doing trade missions than I was at the time, and I will definitely be back again because I thought it was well worth the investment of time and resources. But folks that have done it, did it prior, they even gave you guys a list of companies that they wanted to meet with. So it worked both ways. So I told the folks that from the commercial service, like, these are the kinds of companies I'm looking, and these are the titles and things like that. And you came back to me and said, okay, here are the meetings. But again, other folks that knew this a little bit better, which is one of the reasons I wanted to have this this interview, is the fact that if you have a list of prospects, you give them to the commercial service in that embassy, and they will make it happen. Everyone said that the time that all the ones that they put together actually did happen, which was really, really amazing. So you put together that. Oh, and just so you know too, like, obviously, Sam, we can talk about a little bit about the criteria. It's not like you just have a company and a pulse. Like, you have to apply, right? In my case, you had to be a fast growth startup with a tech spin. So when you're looking at these opportunities, there are criteria, that you have to kind of meet. It's not, you just don't, and you have to do an interview and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like you can just show up. But, again, I can attest to how hard these folks worked to make sure that we had, the representation, the government attention. There were a couple of meetings too, specifically about, like, some of the hot button issues of, with platforms, like the privacy laws over there and like different things. So it's a really comprehensive, comprehensive service. Do these trade missions, do you have to go to multiple countries, or how does that usually work?
Sure. So I can give you just a quick overview. So I use cybersecurity as an example because we're actually having a cybersecurity trade mission going to India in May. So unfortunately, that's already wrapped up. The recruitment's already wrapped up. But we usually do a cybersecurity trade mission every year. So the one in India, they're going to Mumbai and New Delhi. And then if you'd like, you can also do a spin-off into Bangalore. So you could be hitting 3 different locations in that one country. We do that because India specifically is obviously a huge country. And so similar to how we divide it up in our states, India has multiple offices. So when you were on your trade mission, there was only one office in Lisbon, one office in Amsterdam, one office in Paris, and that was just the office for the country. India's a little different just because the New Delhi clients that you'd meet, our potential B2B partners, are very different than the ones you're going to meet in Mumbai. And there's also a lot of different local governments happening there as well. So we try to assess what kind of the best value would be. To just hit one country in India, you wouldn't necessarily get the whole country. Whereas you might in Lisbon, when Portugal is kind of a relatively smaller country. So
well, in Lisbon, it was kind of set up around Web Summit because we were all like the fast growth startups. So I do know that in some countries there are like bigger events that that sometimes you try to tie into as well. Now let's get to some of the nitty gritty about costs, because it's not like you're sponsoring folks to go. So there are costs to these, correct?
Yes. So we try to make the cost as reasonable as possible. So usually they'd be between 1,000 to 3,000. We also have we kind of price it so that way if you're a small or medium-sized business, there's a discount. And sometimes we even have 3 different prices based on small, medium, large. Sometimes it's just small, medium, and large. So we also have the STEP program. So Kathryn, I think you're familiar with the STEP program. So that is it's not through the Department of Commerce, it's actually through the SBA, but it's a grant that each state applies for, and they get X amount of money, and then that they can distribute to small businesses. So you can use your STEP funds, and again, you can reach out to your local offices about this because each state runs it a little differently. So if I tell you about Massachusetts, I'm kind of ignoring the rules for 49 other states. But so they definitely, no matter what state you're in, the STEP grant will help you with trade mission costs for the attending the trade mission. In some cases, they'll also help fund travel, and in other cases, they'll help fund hotels. So that's a really great resource. And they also help fund, we do have a few other fee-based services as well. And so STEP grant will cover those as well.
So let's, that's a really great opportunity. And I want the folks out there to understand too, is don't think because you're in Kansas that no one pays attention to you, that, everyone is,
Right.
all the love goes to the both coasts and everything. If anything, in this case, the government is very invested in getting folks in underrepresented communities or, maybe not typical tech hubs and things like that, with opportunities through the SBA. So you may have more opportunities in your local area than I did here in Massachusetts, right? Because, we get a lot of love here in Massachusetts. So you talked about some of the fee-based services, and I know one of the gentlemen on the mission, and we are going to have a follow-up panel with some of those, the actual folks that were on the mission, but he mentioned that even outside of trade missions, that you have programs that do set up meetings for folks that you may not even have to travel. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So bread and butter for us is pretty much just matchmaking. That's what we love to do. That's what we're great at. We love connecting people to other people, right? So matchmaking is kind of our number one thing. If you're not quite ready at the matchmaking level yet, we do have an international market check. So this is when, let's say, you've just sold to Canada, maybe you just started selling to Mexico and you're looking at Europe. We'll help you kind of determine which market might work best for you, and we'll help you do some customized market research for that. So that's kind of step 1. Step 2 is once you've determined your market, that's when you speak to our local specialists. So these would be your local tech specialists in that country, and you would discuss with them kind of who you want to meet. So perhaps in that country, it's easier to just work directly with a local partner if you're trying to, maybe you're trying to get government sales. In other cases, maybe you are just trying to target, you just work with the financial sector. And so you're like, hey, can you introduce me to as many local banks as you can? So you work with us, you let us know exactly who you want to meet with. If you want to meet with someone even in the government, we do have like DOD. A lot of people want to meet with the ministry. If you work with the DOD here, maybe you want to work with ministries of defense in allied nations or that kind of thing. And so we're happy to connect you that way.
So those folks out there that are in public sector already, that are selling to the United States government, you're saying that could be an entree into, other countries and their governments too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we focus on the international side. So I can't connect you to our DoD
No, I'm saying if they're
locally,
already
but
working, because we do
yes,
have a lot of folks that work specific already in the
mhm,
public sector here in America.
yes,
And in theory, like if they're already kind of approved by our DoD,
mhm,
that might be, you know, they could say to you, hey, look, we're looking to work with Canada or Belgium
yeah.
or whatever. And that way, you know, you guys could set them up with folks in those countries. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's actually a really great segue into that. That's we love to make that introduction. We can say, hey, company X is really awesome. They're so awesome that DoD is already buying. You should buy too. And so that's actually a great kind of way to introduce a company when we're kind of doing our outreach. So yeah, so our matchmaking services, there is a fee associated with that. It kind of just depends on how you want to do it. Again, Step Grant can cover that. So step one is kind of you just want us to find contact lists. So you just say, hey, here's the companies that I want to connect with. Here are the, types of companies I want to connect with. You can be as specific as you'd like. And we say, okay, great. Give us a couple weeks. Here's a list. Boom. You guys, you can deal with it on your own. You can do your outreach. Step two is we actually make the introductions for you and we create kind of a virtual introduction. So we do a bunch of B2B meetings. We'd be in the meetings with you and they would be virtual. So that way you don't have to go anywhere. But we really do recommend what's called our Gold Key service. So that's when you let us know kind of what companies you want to meet with, which contacts you'd like, if you want as distributors, end users, that kind of thing. And you come to the country. And then so we would set up, we would arrange, and we would attend the meetings with you in person. We would make a day of it. And so you would get 3 to 5 meetings usually. We do go quality over quantity. We're not going to set up a meeting with you just to set up a meeting. We will only kind of connect you if we see that they're a really good partner or that or maybe they've worked with US companies before and already have a good track record. So we do vouch for the companies beforehand because we want to make sure that they're legit before we start introducing them to you. So that's we do kind of a vetting process. So that's matchmaking. And so again, same thing. Small businesses pay a certain amount, medium businesses pay a different amount, larger businesses pay a little bit larger amount. So we do try to make it as fair as possible, especially for the small businesses that maybe only have like 30 people in
Yeah.
their companies. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and typically in the channel, you know, your MSPs, MSSPs, agents and things, I mean, you're under 10 employees typically. And,
Right.
you know, but you have, obviously you have suppliers and vendors who have cybersecurity, like, and other, I don't want to
Mhm.
just, you know, single out cyber, although that's probably one of the hotter ones lately, but,
Yeah.
you know, the SaaS solutions, you know, those folks would have much bigger companies. But I know like some folks out there that were on our trade mission are building data centers and,
Mhm.
you know, different kinds of things that aren't necessarily SaaS. Because I think again, everyone thinks like, oh, it must be, I have to have a software solution, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what are some of the, I mean, we talked about some of the different opportunities for you know, for like the different themes, like you said, travel and beauty and like those other things, but particularly in the tech sector,
Mhm.
what's kind of hot? Like what are companies, countries out there looking to buy services from US companies around?
Sure. So I just use cyber because cyber is really, really hot right now, as you said. So cyber is probably the number one that I've been working with here in Massachusetts. Number two is probably telecom. So again, that's not software. That's people want wires. People want, the
Infrastructure.
yeah, the structure. They want the infrastructure as well. And so telecom's huge because as soon as you get the 4G up, 5G exists now. So now you want 5G and then, and so on and so forth. So that's a really big one because there's just constantly people just need it to be updated, and it's not just a software update, it's actual hardware and actual like products that need to be resent. So those are probably the two big ones right now. Robotics is also getting it's having a moment. So
Okay.
same thing. And so I will note that for software companies, you don't necessarily have to deal with export compliance in terms of like border patrol. But if you are selling hardware, if you are selling, physical goods, we do a lot of export compliance kind of seminars and trainings as well. And if you have questions about specific markets, like let's say you just get hung up at the border somewhere because you didn't fill out the exact right HS code or something like that, we are happy to help you with compliance issues as well for the physical goods.
So it sounds like if somebody wants to go global, it doesn't make any sense for them not to engage with you in some way. Because obviously there's
Yeah.
firms out there that say they do all this stuff and they probably do, and they probably do a really great job at it. But you know, this is all you do all day, every day,
Yeah.
what I really enjoy about it too is the connection with the local governments. I mean, we went to all the embassies, we were welcomed into all the embassies, we got to meet with all the commercial service and all the different folks. So, if you go to a third party, you may spend a lot more money, and they may not have those relationships on the ground in the country, whereas you guys do too. And from what I understand, and you may or may not know the answer to this question, but it was brought to my attention on that trade mission that the United States government does incentivize these countries in either tax incentives or something to work with American companies. Because my first question when I was thinking about doing it, why would France want to buy my product instead of a French product? You know what I mean? Like, so can you talk any about that?
Sure. So yeah, so we do, obviously we have a lot of relationships with a lot of different countries. And so sometimes we do provide aid packages, that a little kind of contingency is that X amount of this fund or X amount of this tax break or whatever it is, use it on US goods. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities there. And that's another thing you can discuss. So we also have a ton of free trade agreements. So when you're looking for where's my next market, those are a lot of really good things to consider. Is where is there a free trade agreement? Where is there incentives for US companies? And where is there like a strong US commercial presence? Where are other US businesses going? Where's the demand? So that's definitely something to consider when you're looking abroad.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Especially because I know you don't cover the whole country. But this is going to be so helpful for so many because there are opportunities. And, even if you're a small regional company, there's no reason that you can't, you couldn't go global with one of these programs, and they are really affordable,
Yeah.
so definitely folks out there, take advantage of it. And we'll put the regional office link to all the regional offices in the
Yep.
chat. And also we'll put the link to where they can follow the US commercial service to learn about new
Yes.
things. But I also have to say that if you do connect up with your local office, they'll be happy to hear from you. And now that they know you're interested, like Sam is always emailing me, hey, I have this new trade mission, do you want to go? Or we have these new opportunities. So it's not as if it doesn't continue on. And also I got reached out to I think probably 6 weeks after I got back, by somebody in the embassy in France, who said, oh, this company wanted to meet with you, but they weren't able to. So here's their contact and we'll set up a virtual meeting. So it's
Mhm.
not as if you just go on the trade mission and then they, but it's what you make of it. I think that's really what it is too. If you really want to take advantage of any opportunity. And my thing was, when I was going to go on this trade mission, I was like, if I'm going to spend the money and the time away from my business, because it is, right? Time away from the business, I'm going to make the most out of every single thing. So if you're ready to go global, if even if you're thinking you might in the next 6 months or a year, because these trade missions are ongoing,
Mhm.
and the services are ongoing, definitely engage. Having the conversation costs you nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are there. It's not like you're charging me by the hour to,
No.
to
No.
talk
No. No.
about anything. So I think it's really exciting, and I'm just so happy that you were able to come and like bring this information to our listeners out there. So
Yeah,
thank
well,
you.
thank you for having me. And I will leave you with one last statistic. 83% of the companies we work with are small and medium-sized businesses. So you're not too small, I promise. You're not too young, you're not too small. We are happy to help you, and we're happy to help you get started on the exporting journey. So
Well, I think that's an important thing too, is that sometimes people think, oh, I have to be a big
no,
company. Like,
no.
we're a fast growth startup. So we don't
Mhm.
have 100 employees, So, I can again attest to the fact that if even if you are small, you're not,
Yep.
as you said, you're not too small. But thank you. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining
Yeah.
us today. And she is an expert on channelWise. So you can schedule a call to talk with her about it. And
Yes.
if you're not in Massachusetts, I mean, she may refer you to your local office. But if you just want to have a general conversation, I'm sure she'd be happy to have that. And stay tuned, because we are going to do a panel with some of the folks that were on the last trade mission, and within the next couple of months, to kind of like give you from their perspective on how it went, and the opportunities that they were able to uncover. So thank you again. It was really great to see you and speak with you. And as normal, if we have lots of experts on channelWise for anything, any different business challenges or career challenges you may have. So you can go to channelwise.com and check there as well. And we want to help you or your partners go farther, faster in your business. So thanks again, Sam. And until next time, everyone.